really exciting to get out from behind a screen and away from cats that love to crawl all over my keyboard. So thank you for entertaining me for the next 45 minutes. So this is a pretty bold subject, what I'm starting to go over, because the world of digital marketing is absolutely vast, and I'm not going to be covering every single thing there is to know in 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do is hyper-focus on what is actively shifting and what you need to be aware of going into 2026. That's not going to be platform specific. We're not getting too niche here, but I want you to walk away from this understanding generally what digital marketing encompasses, how we can start shifting your thinking about your website as the center of everything you're doing in digital marketing and why that's important. And then we're going to talk about what's changing about online visibility in 2026, meaning how are you showing up online and how people are finding you, how you're reaching them, and what actually is going to matter, which is, again, case dependent. Can't really get into that in 45 minutes, but you're going to get the general sense of this. We're going to talk about what your website and SEO actually have to do with it. I should probably be in range of my own camera. And I want to give you a couple tips on what and where you should be starting like yesterday. So that's what I want you to walk away from today with this. Just some high level here. So who am I and why am I the one here talking to you about this? So I have been in editorial for 20 years and I've been in SEO for about 10. I went out on my own and started the Stellastra effect in 2016. My specialties are in the intersection between SEO and content marketing. That's my specialty. That's what I'm pretty well known for. I also have specialties in niche industries, thought leadership, brand identity development, and local search engine optimization. So if you were looking to find people within a certain geographic area, I'm your girl. So I have been, I hate to do the boasting, but I'm going to boast for a second. So I've been recognized in the industry for my SEO and content marketing work. Won the same award twice in a row from the Content Marketing Awards 2 years in a row for best topic specific blog. Very niche, but worked. And I've been placed on a number of marketing under 40 lists for my work in certain industries. So, but really my main thing here is I want to educate people on the importance of their digital marketing because, I've worked for large companies. Red Bull's not going to miss me. Uber's not going to miss me. But what is going to miss me potentially are smaller businesses that deserve the same access and deserve the same knowledge base that the enterprise large international companies do. So I've really set on this path of starting to educate folks and really want people to understand and feel empowered by the digital marketing that they're doing and not, oh, everyone else is doing this, so I'm going to do something, or someone told me something and I should try it, but to actually understand what's going on, especially if you're working with somebody and it's out of your hands. So that's been forming the basis of a lot of things that I've been working on for the last, year or so. So overall, what digital marketing encompasses, so it's a long laundry list of things. And, I'm going to be, everything I talk about today is going to touch on these things in some way, shape, or form slightly. But digital marketing is a giant umbrella that covers, we're going to be covering organic SEO, meaning how people find you without paying for advertising. Then there's pay-per-click advertising, which is things like Google ads. Social media marketing is its own discipline. Email marketing, own discipline, content marketing, which is anything you're putting out there, publishing in exchange for hopefully getting leads or business out of it. Video marketing, YouTube is one of the most searched channels in the world. It is probably second after Google, and it is its own beast and its own discipline. So video marketing gets its own thing. Affiliate marketing also falls under this. So if you're running a course and someone gets a link, then you sign up and you get $20 if someone signs up with your link. That's affiliate marketing. All kind of falls under the digital marketing umbrella. But you need a home for everything that you're doing. And that's one of the big things that I preach when I talk to people, because without your website, we lose ground, because your website is one of the few things that's actually in your control. And so I want to make sure people understand and they're maximizing use of their website while they're doing all these initiatives. So why I push this is your website is your welcome mat in a lot of different ways. I'm going to be talking about how large language models like ChatGPT and Google see your website as the source of authority on you. We're going to be talking about that. Your website is the place where people are going to go to find the official source of information about you. If it's outdated, if your information is 5 years old, we might as well be 5 years behind. And this is where it becomes incredibly important to keep that updated, and you're gonna see the pieces why as I go through the next half hour or so. One thing that I really like to preach here is that everything that comes to your website, most platforms, again, asterisk, a lot of things are asterisk here, but the data that's coming through the website, the customer information, everything that comes to your website is yours. When people give you their email, their phone number, their name, that's your customer list for you to keep. If Instagram decides that they don't want you on their platform and kicks you off tomorrow, which isn't a concern for some people, might be for boudoir photography, it might be a concern. If Instagram decides you're gone tomorrow, you just lost all your followers and you don't have a way to ever contact them because you don't get an email address. You're gone and they're gone too. So while social is incredibly important, you don't collect that data in the same way that you do if you send someone to your website and encourage them to give up that precious contact information. No one can take that list away from you once you build it. It is yours. It is your property. It is your data. So the best way to collect that is through a platform that you own and you control, and that is your website. Always keep backups, keep all that information with you. So one of the other things I like to point out is everything online is subject to algorithm changes. We've all heard this. You are in a place where something that worked last week no longer works this week. That is a drastic hit for people who heavily rely on platforms like social in order to get leads. How many people have seen this or have been affected by this before? That they had had reach and all of a sudden you get nothing. So this will happen. One notable example I'd love to point out, TikTok a couple months ago, I believe, they had a pretty significant algorithm change and creators were reporting that they lost 5 figures of income overnight because they weren't getting the views and sales that they once were from the platform. That messes with their dinner, right? Like that messes with their money. And how completely unfair is that? I'm out of frame of my own camera again. So Google has algorithm changes as well. There's several of them a year, but it's different in a couple of ways. First, you're sending people to your website because it's information you own, and you're able to hold on to that a little bit strongly. The way Google rolls out is a little bit less drastic. We don't know when they're happening. Google will say, okay, there's an algorithm update coming. It'll roll out over a couple of weeks, and then we have to take time to monitor how those changes actually affect you. So it rolls out in a different way. Some of them are very small updates. Some of them are significant, and we'll talk about the really significant ones that have probably affected a lot of people in here. We are going to talk about that. So these algorithm changes are something to keep in mind, but if your website is your home, your website is your website. You're not going to be hit in the same way. And thinking about your website is central to your long-term growth and your short-term gains as well. So if you're running an ad, if you would go back, let's say we're running pay-per-click advertising, right? And we don't think about the information on the page that we're sending people to. I can't tell you how many times I've run into people who are running an ad campaign and the form on their website is broken, or they're not getting the information, or something's not going in there, or you have the wrong date or price or whatever it is on there. How much money did you just spend on information that was wrong because that wasn't the center of the universe here? So I want you to think about your website as central to what you're doing and not accessory to everything you're doing. And now we're going to talk about why that matters in 2026. I'm going to be breaking this down into 6 areas. We're going to talk about brand identity and brand marketing. We're going to talk about your authority and your subject matter and what that has to do with this. We're going to talk about how people actually find you online and how that's shifting. We're going to talk about the expansion of a Google feature called AI Overviews that you might have seen just on Google. We're going to talk about what I love to call the oversharing era and what that means for you. And we're going to hit the last one, the most controversial, and the sexiest for last, the greater adoption of ChatGPT and what that actually realistically means. So your brand, think about your brand as the way people want. What do you want people to know about you? The exercise that I like to use are, what are the top 3 words that you want people to associate with you when someone thinks about you or talks about you? Do you want to be considered trustworthy? Do you want to be considered no nonsense? Do you want to be considered, do you want to be an authority in your area? So what your brand does is it helps communicate that to the world. And there's a couple ways that this is done. There's a whole discipline of visual identity. So that's your logo, that's your colors, That's your font. And then there's like a verbal identity to this too. How do you talk about yourself? How do you talk about your clients? And that helps inform how people understand you as a whole. What this has to do with search engine optimization and your website is the first things first is there are kind of two camps of the way people are looking for you. Two very general ways that we break down how people look for you. Branded search and non-branded search. Branded search is when people are Googling the Stellastra effect or Cohatch. That's a branded search because they already know about you and they're looking up your company. And then non-branded search is people are discovering or looking for those services and they don't have a name for it yet. Co-working in Cleveland, digital marketing agency, Ohio, something like that. That would be a non-branded search. And depending on the industry, this is about a 50-50 split. Some industries, you do see more branded search than non-branded search and vice versa. And in general, it's a little easier to appear for your own brand because how many other people want to rank organically for your brand? There's not a lot of competition for that. So you have an opportunity to take full ownership online of your own brand, but it all starts with your website for a lot of reasons we're going to keep going through. Another thing to think about with your brand is a way to communicate your values with people. And people shop based on their values. This is not something that's going away. We see time and time again, year after year, the marketing data comes back. People spend with their dollars. They want to support women-owned. They want to support Black-owned. They want to support local. These are the things that they want. So who's going to tell them about you if you don't tell them about you? Someone has to do that communicating, and it should be you who's doing that. So this is why I have Miss Frizzle up here. Be an educator on yourself. You are the best resource on you. Don't let other folks take that. You don't want other folks to be taking that away from you. You want them to affirm what you're already doing. You want them to confirm what you're doing. So when you serve as your own resource, using your website as that central hub, the center of that universe, you have a home for where I can talk about my brand, my values, and where I can inform people of this is who I am and this is why you should consider working with me, doing business with me, whatever that looks like. So your authority. So this is closely related to brand in a couple of different ways. So search engines are taking into account who you are in this world while you're putting content out or messaging out about your brand, your company. It's a metric. The abbreviation for the metric is EEAT: expertise, experience, authoritativeness, which is a word somehow, and trustworthiness. This is an acronym that basically that's the rubric that Google and other search engines are looking at when they're taking into account where you belong in this giant catalog of the internet that they've created. Where do you belong in that? So if you're an expert on fitness, if you're an expert on photography, if you're an expert on carpentry, I'm calling up people in the room, sorry. If you're an expert on these things, what does it take to tell the internet that you have these credentials? Because remember, you're talking to two different groups here. You're talking to your customers, but you also have to tell Google and the other search engines what they're about because they need to read and understand who you are too. And this is where all the technical and content implementations of SEO, of which there are more than 200 factors, actually come into play. But this authority is taken into account. And that takes time to build reputation. It's not something that comes overnight. It takes time. It takes showing up. It takes putting yourself out there in a way that you want people to know and associate you with different things. One of the advantages we're going to have, in my humble opinion, throughout 2026 and into the future is we now have the opportunity to stand out in a sea of sameness. And the reason I say this is because there's a rush to use AI tools, to use different products that, yes, they can generate content en masse, but are they actually talking to their audience? The heart is missing. The human element is going to be missing. And I'm already fixing websites that have full AI libraries that have plummeted sites because of this. So how do you stand out in a sea of sameness, right? You're not the only event planner. You're not the only tarot card reader here. How are you standing out in a sea of sameness, right? Why should people choose you? And this is where your brand reputation comes in, and this is where your mission and your vision come in. And we're going to talk about why this matters in 2026 especially when we get to ChatGPT. That's where we're going to have a whole conversation. Bottom line, why this matters, high level. So how people find you, this is also evolving. So it's important to keep that in mind. This is a shift that we have been seeing over the last couple of years, but we are continuing to see a shift in how people are actually like navigating the internet, right? And there is a generational gap here. We are finding that younger folks are more skeptical of Google. Older folks are more likely to use Google, but people tend to also discount the fact that like anyone above the age of 30 is on TikTok. So there's definitely no like there's definitely no like cut clean thing here. But what we want to keep in mind is it's not just one way that people are looking for you. People are looking for you in a bunch of different ways. And it's not just, so Google is, we're going to talk about how Google's still the lion share of these, and we're going to get to that. But people are turning to other platforms in order to look you up, and then they're trusting but verifying, right? They're going to go other places to look for you. And this is the search pattern that we're seeing. They discover you on, and it's only going to get more intense in 2026 as more skepticism develops around potential like hallucinations around AI, or, you know, what is Google actually showing me, why they're showing me this. We're going to see more diversification of how people are looking for you. Not everybody scrolls on TikTok 10 hours a day. So if you are on TikTok, that's the only thing you're doing, who else are you missing out on, right? And there is a trial and error process here. You don't need to be on everything all the time. It's impossible. You only are, as my mom would say, I've only had two hands since the accident. So like, this is like, there's only so much that you can do. But thanks, Sophie, for that. I did not come up with that. People are looking beyond, they're using other search engines. They're using Bing, they're using Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. They are using LLMs like ChatGPT. They're discovering you on social media, on YouTube, all these other places. So your presence here becomes important than ever. Do you feel unified? Is your brand being explained in the way you want it to be communicated and explained on these different platforms, right? Are you giving the same impression on Instagram that you are on your website? Are you on your email marketing? Are you doing that? That unification, because people, that touch point, and this is like marketing 101, you need to talk to people multiple times for them to listen to you. You're not just going to have one conversation, people give you money. In my experience, run the hell away if someone's going to do that, because it's always been a worse experience, but it takes time, and you have to find people in different places and unite them in these places. So diversification, you're going to see more ways that people are going to find you. We are going to see that expand in the coming year, in my humble opinion. Here's one of the big ones, the expansion of AI overviews. How many people monitor the traffic that comes to their website right now? How many people keep an eye on it? Has anyone seen a downward shift over the last like 12, 24 months? This might be a reason for it. I say might because there's a lot of reasons that can play into it, but this is a possibility. So what AI Overviews is, this is a feature that Google rolled out pretty disastrously about 2 years ago. They pulled back, retooled it, re-released it. What it is, it puts out a summary at the top of search results that basically covers everything that you want to learn about that query that you're putting in. This is powered by Gemini, which is Google's AI suite. By most estimates, around 20% of searches, about 1 in 5, are covered by an AI overview right now. And what we're seeing here is, how do I put this? A dramatic drop in how people are interacting with search results now. So we're actually currently in the boat, in the storm, riding on and gripping on for dear frickin' life right now, while we deal with a massive change in user behavior. We are moving into what we're all calling a zero-click search era. So what that means is people are more likely to read this little blurb or read a summary, read ChatGPT and go, oh yeah, that's good, and move on with their life. So what is this affecting? That's a massive, yep. And if they're not, exactly, and if you're doing that, your customers are doing it too. So you have to think, that doesn't mean that you're not learning, right? You read the information, you learned about the person, you just didn't click. So historically, for at least a decade, what folks in marketing have measured success of SEO campaigns have been by is clicks. How many clicks are you getting? How many people are going to your website? And so we're now dealing with the fundamental shift of how are you showing up in these systems, because people are more inclined to read this. This is a slow rollout. It's going to get larger in 2026. This is only, right now the searches cover what's called informational queries. What that means is it's answering really kind of basic questions. What is this? Who is this? Where is this? It's the vast majority of those searches have been pretty much obliterated. Unfortunately, Google doesn't give us any data. So we actually have no idea what's going on in this box. We have no idea because Google will not tell us who's clicking on this link right here. They won't tell us who's clicking. So they're pulling the information. Well, they won't tell us who's clicking. They tried to say that we're getting more, what's the word they used? Like higher intent clicks, like more people who are more interested. They tried to say this, but by most estimates, we're seeing at minimum a 30% drop in clicks across the board. So this has really been affecting larger companies for the most part, which is something to think about. So like SaaS companies, like software has been really affected by this because I'm one of them. I wrote Gusto's library. I was one of the people who wrote Gusto's library. Name a couple of others. I've written their libraries and they're in this, they went the informational query route because they picked up all the search traffic for what is a 1099 form, right? What is payroll, things like this. And now that, those are generally in the discipline of SEO considered low intent searches, meaning those people are less likely to convert. They're not as intentional because they don't know about your brand. If they know about your brand, they're intentional because they know they want to work with Rosetta, right? They know they want to work with Jenna. They're not necessarily looking for a solution. They already know you. That's a higher intent search. These are lower intent searches, but it's still affecting the click-through rates. And it's scaring a lot of people because it's really scary to see that evolution. So what I'm encouraging people in 2026 is if your click-through rate is dipping, but you're doing everything right, that's another thing because there could be, again, more than 200 factors that go into SEO. There could be technical problems with sites, there could be other problems that we need to fix. But if you're doing everything right and you're seeing things drop, we might want to consider if this is coming up for searches that are similar to what you're looking for, right? But here's the thing. I'm talking a lot of doom and gloom here about zero-click search. Somebody has to give Google this information. Shouldn't that be you? Why shouldn't that be you? Why shouldn't you be, if you want to, because eventually it hasn't happened yet, but it will come. And I'm starting to see, I see Google testing this out with some of the local businesses I worked with. Like I'll use like a dog walking service in New Jersey that we work with. We're starting to see it blips up every once in a while. Like I want a dog walker in my, my town, where can I go for that? And they're getting pulled in and they're getting recommended. So it'll be like, I want a dog walker in Morristown, whatever. And it'll say, go to Pet Plugs or whatever. Like it'll say that and it'll pull that in. It's an experiment. It's popping up in and out. So it's not fully rolled out yet, but we're starting to see this happen. So even though, no one's clicking, Google's reading. Google's reading and people are reading. People are still reading. So even though, just, you got to kind of grin and bear it. We are in the middle of a massive shift in the way people and search behavior is. But keep in mind that a lot of this can be attributed to, it's a shift change, right? It's the same, it's a major shift change. I would compare it to going from like a dumb phone to a smartphone, right? Or like, you stop using dial-up and you upgraded to broadband, right? So like it's a sea change, right? I don't know if I know anybody who has a non-smartphone anymore, right? It's a sea change, and this is not expected to go away. Google is very famous for not giving up on their experiments, so we're going to see a lot of this. This ties directly into what I like to call my oversharing era. So people want direct answers to their questions as fast as freaking possible, right? They want to know right away if that restaurant has gluten-free options. They want to know right away if Cohatch lets me rent this room. People want to know immediately, right? How does this matter to me? Does the content I'm pulling up answer my questions? And are the results even relevant to me in the first place? People are looking for satisfaction as quick as possible. And one of the ways we can do that is we can tell the internet and people what we want them to know about us, right? Do we want them to know that we're a woman-owned business? Do we want them to know that we're open on Saturdays, right? Do we want them to know that the lighting in the room is very moody, right? Do we want people to know this? And we're starting to see features roll out in Google Business Profile, which is that little map you see on the right of the screen. In the review section, we're starting to see AI summaries of the reviews that people are leaving, because again, EEAT, experience. Do you have experience? Did you go there and eat at that restaurant? Did you go and have that coffee? Did you take that course? So they want, that's experience. That means a difference. And people, almost everyone looks you up with reviews. 9 out of 10 at least are going to look you up with reviews. So you're starting to see AI summaries of reviews. We're starting to see tags of reviews, so you can look right away and see, oh, is there vegetarian food here? You can, is there a bar? Do they serve mocktails? You're going to see that right away. Where do they get that information from? Well, the restaurant is going to provide that, because there are places that you could be putting that information in Google Business Profile. They have a lot of questions. Fill out every damn one. Fill out every one. Tell them when you have accessible parking, if you have a physical space. Tell them if you have a designation when you own your business. Tell them your hours. Make sure that you keep that updated and keep it filled, because it's a Google loves Google products and wants you to stay in Google products, so it works to your advantage to use some of these tools. So if Google's giving you an opportunity to enter your oversharing era, fill it out. Do it. Give them the information, because that's only going to help you as we go back to, let's go all the way back, people shopping based on their values, people shopping based on what's going to, how does it matter to them? Does it answer their question? Are the results relevant to them? The more you provide, the more detail people have and search engines have to make decisions and to make recommendations. And finally, why this might be on your mind, I'm so sick of talking about ChatGPT. I can't even begin to tell you. Let me explain to you how ChatGPT works quickly, and how it works for search. And then I'm curious, I want to feel the audience for some things. ChatGPT is what's called a large language model. This is one of many different types of AI systems. AI has been around for many years. It just hasn't been in the public. It has not been in the public discourse, right? So ChatGPT from OpenAI, Gemini from Google, Copilot from Microsoft, these really entered, Claude by Anthropic, have all entered the public eye, last 2 or so years. And then there's this frantic, oh my God, I can use this to save time and money. And now we're all feeling the repercussions of that. So let me explain at a basic level how large language models work. What they're doing, a large language model like ChatGPT took the entirety of the internet, we're talking billions, probably trillions of pages, digested the information, and then it's pulling from active search results. It's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. That's how search engines work. So it's pulling what it knows from the entirety of the internet. It has this body of knowledge plus search results, and then it works on a pattern. It makes an educated guess on what it thinks is going to come next. It's educated guessing. This is pattern recognition. That's what it is. So eventually it gets, if you have an account and you use it a lot, it gets to learn your patterns. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But that's one of the reasons it becomes so hard. It becomes so hard to monitor. I'm skipping around a bit. It's because it becomes a little bit harder to monitor, because now we're getting very hyper-personalized, right? Let's go back to hyper-personalization. This is a system that now knows what I want, knows where I live, knows what I've asked for before, and is going to give me those results. If I asked for, shout out to Luna, I wanted to support woman-owned for this, so we got Luna Bakery. When I looked up woman-owned, place I can get catering from, eventually ChatGPT will learn that that's what I want, and it's going to just start giving me those results first. So it's hyper personalized. That's one of the reasons people like it. So to keep that in mind, though, when you're saying, oh my God, I'm not appearing in ChatGPT, you might be. You still might be. It's just not be coming up for you. It might be coming up for somebody else. We have no really great way to monitor this just yet. And that's one of the issues that we are experiencing is there's no real the same way that Google, we can see in tools like Google Search Console, oh, someone looked up this and they came to your website from that. We don't get that information from ChatGPT. So a lot of it's third-party monitoring, which is a little sketchy. We use Google Analytics to get a sense of who's clicking, which doesn't mean how many times you're appearing. That's a much larger number. So the average that we're seeing, a lot lower than you think. So just to give you a brief example of, this isn't literal, but I put into human language, right? This is where, let's go back. Being the best resource on you and your presence, what makes you worthy in ranking of appearance, and your presence becoming more important than ever. This is where this is all going to start to come into play. Let's say I'm looking for a co-working space, and I'm going to use Cohatch High as an example again. If 3 Cleveland Magazine said that Cohatch is the best networking space in Cleveland, then logically, I should now tell whoever's looking for this that Cohatch is the best networking space in Cleveland. That's a very simplistic way to explain how it works and the logic steps that it's making. It's not smart, it's guessing patterns. Just keep that in mind. We're not dealing with a super intelligence here. So this is where the consistency in how your brand shows up across the internet, across social media, across email marketing, your website, your directories, articles about you, your mission, your vision, your values, your brand visuals, how they're all coming up in consistency. This all matters because systems like ChatGPT, AI overviews, and eventually AI mode, which is Google's version of ChatGPT, which is scary when that rolls out. That's all going to play a role in shaping the answers of how they're going to recommend you. So that all being said, less than 1% of all searches to websites are attributed to ChatGPT right now. I want you to keep that figure in mind because there is a lot of trash, garbage, nonsense out there of folks who are trying to say, well, if you don't do GEO or AEO in your website, you're going to lose business. Who's heard this? Has anyone heard this before? If you don't change the way that you have to make sure you're showing on ChatGPT, or we're all gonna fall on our faces and shrivel. Yeah, so that's nonsense. It's going to grow. The number will grow, but it's not going to be 100%. We're already seeing signs of OpenAI losing the war. Google and Apple have already unified. We're already kind of seeing that happening. But still, out of this number, we're talking, my clients is an average of less than 1%. Depending on the industry, could hit 1%. So this is a very, very rough number. ChatGPT makes up 87% of that 1%. That 13% of that 1% is every other large language model. It's Claude, it's Grok, it's Perplexity. Every single other model is that. I can't make the space between my fingers small enough to show you how tiny that is. It will grow. It will not grow to Google proportions, in my humble opinion, but you will see this number go up in 2026. I want to get guesses here. How much on average, how much traffic is Google driving to your website? Guesses, just shout them out. 5%. Okay. 20%. Go. 90. 88 to 90 is about what we're seeing. It used to be higher. It used to be 94, 95, 96. It's gone down 4 points in the last couple of years. You think that didn't send Google into a panic? This is why they had an antitrust lawsuit against them. And this is why they're not going to face consequences, but they had an antitrust lawsuit against them because that's ridiculous. They have 9 out of 10 searches in the search market. So this is why we talk about Google being the giant. Everything else is that 10%. Bing is maybe 4%, 3%. DuckDuckGo less than 1, right? You're seeing everything else is much smaller. And again, it's going to fluctuate depending on the person, but the average we're seeing is between 88 and 90. So this is why when we talk about we're not going away, right? ChatGPT is going to grow. It's not catching up from 1 to 90. Let's be real here. And it's not going to catch up that fast, which is why, in my opinion, AI overviews is a bigger concern for you. And your oversharing error is more important, because this is the detail that search engines like Google want. Google Business Profile is made for this. If you have a Google Business Profile and you log into it and you see all these little intricate things that you can be filling in, give them that data, because this is all going to benefit you. It's all going to benefit you. So sorry, Google's not dead. We're not going anywhere here. And there's one more point I had, and I'm sorry, in one ear and out the other. If I remember it, I'll tell it later. All right. So what are we prioritizing in the year of our Lord 2026? All right. If you are not collecting data, start it yesterday or preferably the day before. If you do not have Google Analytics, GA4, that's short for, it's the 4th version of Google Analytics, or Google Search Console, you need both. If you do not have them installed on your website and set up, do it now, because this is where your data is going to come from. This is the analytics that tells you how many visitors are coming from Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Google and Bing and ChatGPT and everything else. You're going to get that information from Google Analytics. And that's where when you install that, you get to see and how that user behavior performs. So you're not just going to see how people are finding you. Well, they don't give you, GA4 doesn't give you keywords, but you're going to see where people are finding you, but how long are they spending on your website? Are they spending time on your website? Do they convert, right? So it could be that even if only 3% of your traffic comes from Instagram, but 50% of it is converting, that's a sign to keep going on Instagram, because that's valuable for you. That's a high conversion rate. Google Search Console is a combination of analytics and technical issues on your website. So what this tool does is it gives you data to that shows you if there's if your website's being understood by Google, if there are technical issues on your website. That all comes through Search Console. I mean, there's other tools for it, but get these installed. Just do it. If you haven't thought about your brand, I see a specialist in the room about this. Know who you want to be and start working on it now, because it takes time to get out there. It takes time for people and search engines to learn about you. So think about who you are, why you're doing it, standardize that, and have that ready to go, right? Like use that line over and over again. We see it in influencers do this all the time. When you watch a video, they'll be like, hi, I'm this, and this is who I am. Like, think about that kind of statement for yourself, because the more you repeat it, the more the internet is validating it for you. And that's the more we're doing that. So start working on that if you haven't yet. We want to drill down your relevance at every level, back in our oversharing era, right? So people are going to find you in different ways. They want to be a part of your community in different ways. So what does that look like? Who, besides from who you are, what your values are, but talk about, those little details that might not matter, right? You might not think about, accessibility in your building or something, but someone's looking for that information. I'll never forget a conversation I had, a couple of years ago with someone who was telling me that they scour Google Business Profile because they're like an anxious person. They want to know what the space looks like, where the entrance is, like where the bathroom is. They want to know these things before they go. And I looked this up. She's so far from alone, it's not even funny. People are looking for this information. They're just they're not going to come up to you and be like, hey, I read your Google Business Profile, because who does that, right? No one's doing that. So just trust me, they're reading. And then finally, I'm going back to my gospel here, which is take your website seriously, because it is the bedrock of everything you do. Everything that we're sending, every registration for a course, every email subscription, every contact form, we want them to go to your website. Why? Because you own that data. Let's go back to that. We own that data. If your website is not going to disappear tomorrow, but everything else could. The algorithm could completely turn you upside down on social tomorrow. You own the email address, because email marketing particularly is very powerful. And if it's something, you don't get that information when you're on social media. So we want to make sure that your website is ready to go, up to date. This is the thing I forgot to tell you about Google AI overviews and with ChatGPT. The last studies that are coming out, and this is something that we've verified with our own clients, is the vast majority, ChatGPT's main source of information is your website. That is the number one place they'll get information from. Then Wikipedia, then Reddit. Well, Reddit's kind of going up and down, but YouTube, it'll pull from all these other places, places of authority, like news articles, things like this. That's what it'll pull from. But the main place it's looking is your website, and same with Google. Google and ChatGPT's optimization tactics are that Venn diagram is basically a circle. There's nothing different or special that ChatGPT is necessarily looking for. It is the same fundamentals. So keep that in mind also when you're putting this together. Make sure your website is up to date, because it is the first place that these search engines are going to learn about you. And make sure you're doing that. The flip side of that is this study came out in December. In the calendar year 2025, at least 70% of content that was cited by ChatGPT was published in 2025. So think about that. If you haven't updated your website in 5 years, we're missing out. TLDR, keep the website at the center of your business universe. Google isn't dead, but we're changing. We're changing a lot. People are going to discover you in all sorts of ways. Your website remains your starting point, but the consistency across the board is going to improve discoverability, which has that effect on your website. ChatGPT does not change online visibility. It is here. It's not going away. It is growing. It will not ruin your life. SEO fundamentals remain the same, though. A good website, which means it's fast and easy to navigate, good technical foundation. This is the part that I literally teach an 8-part course on because I cannot get into it in 45 minutes. Good content that actually resonates with users, and a good user experience. Can people find what they want on their website quickly and easily? So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time with me today.